Okay, let's get into it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into Dr. Pramod Ambadasrao Pawar's theory of transinterpretation. And really, our mission here is to cut through some of the noise in modern scholarship, to understand his, let's call it a radical proposal, a trans-deconstructive intervention against what he calls hermeneutic exhaustion.
Hermeneutic exhaustion. I mean, that really nails it, doesn't it? It's the chaos of endless, often conflicting interpretations. Pawar's whole work is basically a total war against the idea of, reader freedom.
Total war is a good way to put it.
He argues that the famous death of the author declaration is, well, he says it's deeply flawed, that it commits a grave literary injustice by cutting the creation off from its permanent source, the P.
So he's not just reviving the author, he's giving them absolute, undeniable authority. The core thesis is just, it's so uncompromising. The author is alive through his own point of view in the text, having been rested forever beneath the superconsciousness of the text. It's a huge shift in who holds the keys to meaning.
And he puts the blame for all this fragmentation squarely on dualism, the D, the idea that the creator and the creation are two separate things.
Right.
That separation, he argues, leads to directional chaos and what he calls arbitrary multiplicity. When every interpretation is equally valid, then no interpretation is actually valid.
It sounds like pure intellectual anarchy. He even has a sort of a mathematical conclusion for it, right? Something about negating monistic unity means dualism just becomes nothingness.
Exactly. Empty $2 always. If you lose the source, the singular source, you lose all meaning, it collapses.
And this vacuum is what creates the irresponsible reader.
Yes. The reader whose interpretations are just an exaggeration of self. They're driven by their own biocultural facts, and they just use the text to confirm what they already believe.
So if that's the problem, the irresponsible reader and this chaos, how does he build a solution? Because asking for one single truth, that feels like a big step backward after decades of, freeing the reader.
It requires what he calls an ontological imperative, an assent to monism. Monism demands the unity of the author's spirit and the text's body. It creates the trilogy of oneness, author, text, reader, all one thing.
And this is where it gets really interesting because he says the text itself is incomplete. What you read, the manifested corpus, that's only 75% of the work. There's a missing quarter.
Right. That missing 25% is the transintention. It's the initial intuitive spark that exists in the superconsciousness of the text. Think of it like this. The 75% is the sheet music, but that 25% is the raw feeling the composer had before they wrote a single note.
And the conventional reader only ever sees the sheet music.
Exactly.
So the whole purpose of his transinterpretation is the redemption of the text, the R, to move past just interpreting words and to actually re-experience the creative impulse.
And that is the only path to the absolute, the A, the one singular truth. To make sure it's rigorous, he gives us a methodology. The PRAMOD axiom is a 7-point framework. It's the key to unlock that superconscious intent.
Okay, so let's just touch on the components. P is for permanence, the author is always there, and M is for monism, that core unity we just talked about. Those are the bedrock.
Right. And R for redemption and A for absolute define the whole mission. Restore the purpose, find the one truth. Then you have O for omnipresence. The author's intent is literally everywhere in the text.
But this isn't just for literary theory, is it? He positions this as a tool for, well, for everything, for all disciplines, because any field is just interpreting a coded text.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, that universal utility. Think about economics or even data analysis. The theory says you have to move beyond the surface figures. That's the 75% corpus, the quarterly report. You have to find the underlying transintention, the permanent law driving the system, not just the data points.
It forces you to find the integrated why, not just the what. Which brings us to a really provocative final thought for you. If the author is the soul of the text, then Pawar defines literary characters specifically as authorial monitors, just coded projections designed to transmit the author's own permanent point of view. So the next time you finish a book, you might ask yourself, was that character really just a character, or was that the author speaking directly to me? Okay, let's get into it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into Dr. Pramod Ambadasrao Pawar.